My mom said, "You're not my son anymore. Don't call this number again." After I refused to fund my brother's restaurant. Months later, it shut down with massive debt. He got arrested for tax fraud. Dad called demanding I pay his legal fees. I let the phone ring. "My name is Ethan. I'm 31. I'm an HVAC technician, which means I fix heating and cooling systems for commercial buildings, hospitals, office parks, the kind of places where if the air conditioning goes down on a Tuesday, in August somebody's calling me before they call God. It's not glamorous. It pays $74,000 a year before overtime. I own my truck outright. I rent a one-bedroom apartment with a bathroom I've been meaning to renovate for 2 years and a kitchen that's small but has good light in the mornings. I have a girlfriend named Nina who teaches 4th grade and doesn't raise her voice even when she probably should, which I find both impressive and occasionally concerning. I have a dog with one bad ear and no name tag because I keep forgetting to order one, which Nina reminds me about every 2 weeks with the exact same tone she uses on her students. That's my life. Steady. Ordinary. Not the kind of life people make speeches about at dinner tables. I have a brother named Caleb. He's 28. He's the kind of person who walks into a room and everyone turns around. Not because he's loud. Because he's bright. Charming. Quick with a joke, quicker with a plan. The kind of smile that makes people want to agree with whatever he's saying before he finishes saying it. Gloria, our mother, once said Caleb has the gift of making people believe. She meant it as a compliment. I think about that sentence differently now. When we were kids, maybe 12 and 9, Caleb found a stray cat in the backyard. Skinny thing, orange, missing part of an ear like it had been in a negotiation at Lost. He fed it tuna from a can he opened himself, which was impressive because he was 9 and it was a manual can opener and he cut his thumb doing it and didn't cry. He named the cat Diesel and built a bed for it out of a shoebox and one of my sweatshirts, which I didn't find out about until later. He carried that cat around for 2 weeks straight, talked to it during dinner, showed it to every neighbor on the block, introduced it to the mailman. Then one morning he left the back gate open and Diesel was gone. Caleb cried for an hour. Real tears. Genuine. Then he stopped. Completely. Never mentioned the cat again. By the weekend, he was building a go-kart out of bicycle parts in the garage. That's Caleb. Intense, brief, already moving on to the next thing before the last thing has finished dying. He's been that way with everything he's ever touched. The clothing line. 3 months. He designed a logo in a free app, printed 200 t-shirts through an online service, set up an Instagram page with 14 followers, and told everyone at Thanksgiving he was launching a brand. He sold 11 shirts, mostly to family. The other 189 are still in Gloria's garage, stacked in boxes next to the Christmas decorations. What I didn't know until much later was that the clothing line also left $22,000 in unpaid supplier debt. A supplier sued. Gloria settled it quietly using money from Warren's pension fund. Nobody told me. The boxes in the garage were the visible part of the failure. The $22,000 was the part they buried. The crypto phase. 5 months. He called me at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday and said he needed $1,800 for a guaranteed trade that would triple in 2 weeks. I sent it because I was tired and because saying no to Caleb at 10 p.m. on a Wednesday felt harder than sending the money and going to sleep. I never saw the $1,800 again. He never mentioned it. I never asked. That's how it works. The money leaves. The conversation doesn't happen. The next request comes like the last one never existed. The food truck. That was the big one before the restaurant. Gloria and Warren co-signed a lease on a truck, a full commercial kitchen on wheels, stainless steel, fryer, flat top, the works. Caleb drove it exactly 4 times. Never served a single customer. Couldn't figure out permits. Couldn't commit to a location. The truck has been sitting in a storage unit for over 2 years. Monthly fee, $185. Gloria's been paying it. 24 months times $185. That's $4,440 on a vehicle that has never served a single plate of food, and nobody in my family has ever once called that what it is, which is a waste. I added up everything I'd personally given Caleb over the years. Not because I was keeping score, because after what happened, I needed to see the pattern on paper to believe I'd been standing inside it this long without seeing it. The clothing line startup, $3,200. The crypto loan, $1,800. The food truck deposit, $5,000. 2 separate moves when he changed apartments because the first place didn't feel right, $2,400. A car repair he swore on our grandmother's name he'd pay back and never did, $900. Total, $13,300. I'm an HVAC technician. $13,000 is not nothing to me. It's the bathroom renovation I kept postponing year after year. It's the emergency fund that never fully recovered. Every single time, the request came the same way. Caleb would call, or Gloria would call on his behalf, and the sentence always started the same. You know how your brother is. Yeah, I know exactly how my brother is. 8 months before that phone sat ringing on my counter, Gloria hosted a family dinner. Sunday, her house, pot roast, which she only makes when she wants everyone seated and compliant and feeling like they owe her something for cooking all day. Gloria doesn't make pot roast for fun. She makes pot roast when she has an agenda and wants everyone too full and too comfortable to argue. Caleb was there. Warren was there, quiet as always, eating bread and not making eye contact with anyone, which is his contribution to most family events. Uncle Ray was there, which was unusual for a Sunday and should have been my second warning because Ray lives 40 minutes away and doesn't drive that far for pot roast unless someone asked him to. 2 cousins, Aunt Linda, and me. Halfway through dinner, Gloria put her fork down. That's her signal. Fork down, hands folded, eyes sweeping the table. Speech incoming. Caleb has something exciting to share with everyone. Caleb stood up. He actually stood up at the dinner table like he was giving a presentation, which is exactly what it was. He had a folder. Inside, printed menus with a logo that looked professional enough to fool someone who doesn't look closely, a floor plan for a commercial space on Denon Avenue, a lease agreement, and a projected revenue chart that looked like it was made in PowerPoint by someone who'd never operated a cash register. He wanted to open a restaurant. Southern comfort food, fast casual, counter service. He'd secured a small bank loan, he said, leaning on the word secured like it meant the hard part was done. He just needed $85,000 more to cover build-out, equipment, and the first 3 months of operating costs. The room got quiet the way rooms get quiet when someone says a number with 5 digits and everyone is calculating what they're about to be asked for. Gloria spoke. This is a family investment. We all believe in Caleb. Uncle Ray has already committed. We just need everyone to do their part. She was looking at me. Everyone was looking at me. Because Caleb doesn't have $85,000. Gloria doesn't have $85,000. Warren definitely doesn't have $85,000. Uncle Ray had put in $25,000. A family friend named Dennis was in for $20,000. The gap was mine to fill. That was the whole point of the dinner. The pot roast, the seating arrangement, Uncle Ray's 40-minute drive. All of it was staging for this moment. I said, "Can I see the business plan?" Caleb said, "It's all in the folder, bro." I opened the folder. Revenue projections based on nothing but optimism. No competitive analysis. No staffing budget. No contingency fund. No break-even timeline. Monthly rent of $4,200 on a space that seated 50, which is tight for the concept he was describing and doesn't account for slow months, equipment failure, or the fact that my brother has never finished anything he started. I closed the folder. I'm not investing. The room didn't just go quiet. It went cold. The temperature changed. Gloria's jaw tightened the way it does before she says something she's been saving. Caleb sat down slowly, like the air had been let out of him 1 pound at a time. Uncle Ray studied his plate like it contained instructions. Warren kept eating bread. Warren always keeps eating bread. This is different, Gloria said. It's the same folder, I said. Different cover. Same math. Which is no math. Nobody spoke for about 10 seconds, which at a family dinner table feels like 10 minutes. I left before dessert. Drove home. Sat in my truck in the apartment parking lot for a while. Part of me wanted to go back and write the check just to make the silence stop. Part of me wanted to call Caleb and explain, line by line, why the numbers didn't work. And a small part of me, the honest part, was relieved. Because I'd said no, and the building didn't collapse, and I was still breathing. I found out later from Jess, my cousin, that the dinner was staged. She forwarded a screenshot of a text Gloria sent Caleb the day before. "I'll handle Marcus. Just let me talk first. He'll fold like he always does." That's a direct quote, written about her own son. The dinner wasn't a gathering. It was a coordinated extraction. I also found out that Caleb's small bank loan was co-signed by Gloria, using the house as collateral. Through Jess's friend who works at a credit union, I learned Caleb's credit score was 489. He couldn't get approved for a department store card. The bank didn't believe in Caleb. Gloria bet the house on him. Literally. 2 days after the dinner, Gloria called me. Tuesday evening. I was in my truck in the parking lot outside a supply house, engine running, heat on, waiting for an order. February. The kind of February evening where the windshield fogs at the edges and the supply house fluorescent lights buzz through the glass like trapped insects. Gloria didn't start with hello. She started mid-sentence, like she'd been talking before she dialed. I've never been more disappointed in you. She talked for about 3 minutes. How Caleb had a rail shot this time. How I was jealous of my own brother. How I'd always resented Caleb's personality because I was the quiet one, the difficult one. How family supports family. How she raised me to be better than this. How Warren agreed with her, which I doubt because Warren doesn't agree with anything. He just doesn't disagree out loud. Then she said it. The sentence that put a wall between us that still hasn't come down. You're not my son anymore. Don't call this number again. Click. I sat in the truck. The supply house was closing. An employee came out and started pulling the security gate down, metal scraping metal. The fluorescent lights inside went off section by section, left to right. 3 zones of light disappearing one at a time until the building was dark. I watched all 3 go out. Then I put the truck in reverse and drove home in a quiet that felt like it had weight to it, like the air in the cab had gotten heavier. I made a full pot of coffee when I got home. 8 cups. Ground the beans, filled the filter, pressed the button, watched it drip. Never poured a single cup. It sat on the burner all night. The next morning Nina came over and said the apartment smelled like something burned. I told her what happened. She sat on the counter, her feet hanging off the edge, and didn't say anything for a while. The refrigerator hummed. The coffee maker clicked off. Then she said, "What do you want to do?" "Nothing." I meant it. For the first time in my life, someone in my family told me to disappear, and instead of fighting it, I decided to let them have what they asked for. Total silence. Total absence. If I wasn't her son anymore, then I had no obligations. No calls to return. No checks to write. No pot roasts to attend. I changed Gloria's contact name to Gloria. Changed Warren's to Warren. Small thing. For seconds each. Felt permanent. Silence from your family sounds like this. Tuesday nights with no check-in call from your mother, which you didn't realize you'd been building your evening around until it stopped. Holidays that pass without a plan. A phone that buzzes for work orders and weather alerts and nothing else. A birthday that comes and goes with no voicemail. Month 1. Jess sent the group chat screenshots. The family chat I'd been removed from the day after Gloria's call. She sent 11 of them. I read them sitting on my couch at 9 p.m. with the dog asleep on my feet and a basketball game muted on the TV. Caleb, he'll come around. He always does. Gloria, if he doesn't, we don't need him. Aunt Linda, some people just don't understand family. Cousin Derek, 3 laughing emojis. The whole family, discussing me like I was a problem they'd already solved by removing. The crime was saying no to a check. Part of me wanted to call Gloria and read every message back to her, word for word, and ask her what family means when this is how you talk about the people in it. Part of me wanted to delete everything and pretend the whole year was a dream. And a small part, the part one sat with longest that night while the dog snored on my feet and the game played in silence on the screen, wanted Gloria to be right. Wanted Caleb to succeed. Wanted to feel stupid for saying no, because at least that version of the story ends with me having a mother. Month 2. More screenshots from Jess. Gloria had started a private fundraising campaign among extended family. She called 3 aunts, 2 cousins, and Dennis's wife, told them Marcus abandoned us, and asked them to help fill the gap he left. She raised $31,000 by turning my financial boundaries into a betrayal narrative. $31,000 from people who believed her because she cried on the phone and said her son turned his back on his own brother. She weaponized my absence. Month 3. Uncle Ray called. First time since the dinner. He'd invested $25,000 of his retirement savings. His voice sounded different. Flatter. Like someone had turned the volume down on him. The restaurant's been open 2 months, Ethan. Caleb hasn't shown me a single financial statement. Not a receipt. Not a summary. Not a napkin with a number on it. I've asked 3 times. He says it's coming together. He paused. I could hear a lawnmower on his end. Somebody mowing a lawn in the background of a conversation about a man losing his retirement money. You saw this coming, didn't you? I tried to say something at the dinner. Your mother told us you were jealous. That's why you said no. She said you couldn't stand to see Caleb succeed. She said it to everyone. To me, to Linda, to Dennis. She sold the family a story where I was the villain. She needed a reason for my refusal that wasn't the business plan was bad, because that would mean she was wrong. So she gave them jealousy instead. Easier to understand. Easier to rally against. Ray said, I should have asked more questions. I said, yeah. That was the whole conversation. He hung up. I went back to grouting my bathroom floor. Month 4. Gloria's fundraising campaign was paying off. The restaurant was open, technically. Caleb posted a photo on Instagram of himself standing in front of the sign, arms crossed, big smile, #dream realized. The comments were full of heart emojis. I scrolled past it the way you scroll past a car accident on the highway. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. But I noticed. Caleb hired friends instead of professionals. Football buddies, a college roommate, his buddy's girlfriend who'd always wanted to work in food. The kitchen was being run by people whose primary qualification was knowing Caleb's Wi-Fi password. No experience. No food safety training. No understanding of FIFO or temperature logs or the fact that health inspectors exist. I learned all of this from the periphery. From Jess. From Ray. From the slow drip of information that reaches you when you're standing outside a circle you used to be inside of. But the one that mattered came at a barbecue. July. Coworker's backyard. I was standing near the cooler, plate in hand, talking about nothing. His wife, who does small business accounting for a living, overheard me say my brother's name and the word restaurant in the same sentence. She put her drink down. That place on Denton Avenue? Yeah. My friend did their first quarter books. She quit after 6 weeks. I stopped chewing. Why'd she quit? She said the owner was reporting about half the actual cash revenue. She told him that's fraud. He said it was how restaurants work. She said it isn't. He said she was being dramatic. She turned in her key and left. Quarter 1. The fraud started in the first 3 months. This wasn't a man who panicked when the money got tight and started cutting corners. Caleb built the restaurant on cooked books from the first dollar. He chose to underreport. Deliberately. Systematically. I stood there in a backyard holding a paper plate with a hot dog I never finished eating. The woman's husband called her over to help with the grill. She walked away like she'd just told me the weather. I put the plate down. Never picked it back up. Month 5. Jess sent screenshots of Caleb's social media. New watch. Weekend in Miami. Courtside tickets to a basketball game. This is a man telling his investors the restaurant is almost breaking even. Someone in the family group chat asked about the posts. Gloria's response. He deserves to enjoy himself. He works so hard. Nobody questioned the math. Nobody ever questions the math when it comes to Caleb. Month 6. 2 health inspection flags. Grease trap issues. Temperature logs not maintained. Expired products in the walk-in cooler. A friend of a friend who works in food safety mentioned it to me at a barbershop like it was gossip. I'm surprised they're still open. I'm not surprised by anything anymore. Month 7. The group chat showed Caleb asking the family for another $15,000. Emergency infusion. He said he needed a new cooler and kitchen equipment. Gloria pushed it through. Uncle Ray agreed reluctantly. The $15,000 went to Caleb's personal rent and car payment. A cousin tracked the receipt when Caleb accidentally Venmo'd the wrong person and had to explain why $4,800 went to his landlord from the restaurant's account. I was renovating my bathroom. I'd ripped out the old tile in August, laid the cement board myself, spent weekends on my knees with a level and YouTube tutorials and cheap knee pads that kept slipping. The tile was white. The grout was a color called frost that the guy at the hardware store said was the same as white but cost $2 more, and I bought it anyway because the reviews were better. The bathroom cost me $4,200 total. I tracked every dollar on a spreadsheet. I know exactly where each one went. That's what happens when you've spent your entire adult life watching other people's money disappear into your brother's enthusiasm. You start counting everything. Month 9. The restaurant stopped paying vendors. 2 suppliers cut deliveries the same week. 3 staff quit because Caleb was paying them cash under the table with no W-2s, no withholding, no records. When one of them asked for a pay stub because he needed it for an apartment application, Caleb said, That's not how we do things here. The employee quit the next day and told 2 other employees. They quit the day after that. Month 10. Dennis, the family friend who invested $20,000 of his savings, hired a lawyer, filed a civil suit against Caleb for breach of fiduciary duty. He'd received no financial statements, no profit and loss reports, no communication of any kind for 5 months. He filed the suit while the restaurant was still technically open. Caleb didn't tell the family. The lawsuit surfaced later during the audit, like something buried that the ground pushed back up. Month 11. The state tax audit. $143,000 in unreported income. Fraudulent quarterly filings submitted since the first quarter of operation. Payroll violations. Employee misclassification. Cash payments to staff with no withholding. Revenue numbers that didn't match bank deposits by a factor most accountants would describe as not even trying to hide it. The restaurant was padlocked on a Thursday during lunch service. 3 tables of customers still eating. 2 staff members still inside who had to be escorted out. A state agent put a chain on the door and a notice in the window. The local paper ran a short piece with a photo of the padlocked door. Caleb's social media followers, the ones who had watched him post about building the dream and trust the process for 11 months, found out through comments on his last post. The content that was supposed to prove he made it became a public record of how he didn't. Gloria found out from a neighbor, not from Caleb. A neighbor recognized the restaurant name from an article, pulled it up on her phone, and showed Gloria while she was getting the mail. Gloria called Caleb from the driveway. He didn't pick up. Then she called me. First contact since "you're not my son anymore." 10 months of silence. And her first words were, "Ethan, something happened to your brother." Not hello. Not I'm sorry. Not I was wrong about you. Not even how are you. Something happened to your brother. Like he was the victim. Like the thing that happened came from the outside. Like the padlock and the audit and the fraud were weather events that struck an innocent man. I watched her name on the screen. Gloria. It rang 5 times. I stood in my kitchen watching it ring the way you watch a car alarm go off in a parking lot. Not your car. Not your problem. It went to voicemail. She didn't leave one. This is the same woman who sat with me on the kitchen floor when I was 7 and afraid of thunder. She pulled a blanket over both of us and said, "Nothing bad happens under this blanket." I believed her for years. I believed her about the blanket and the thunder and the idea that family means the people who protect you. That's the part one can't make fit. The mother on the floor with the blanket and the mother on the driveway calling the son she disowned because she needs something. Same voice. Same phone. Different everything. Which brings us back to the kitchen. The pasta. The phone. Warren. The call came 3 weeks after the arrest. In those 3 weeks, Gloria sold her car to cover Caleb's bail. Silver Accord, 9 years she'd had it. Warren remortgaged the house, the same house that was already collateral on the bank loan Gloria co-signed. I learned this from Jess because Warren doesn't communicate directly. He communicates through actions, through absence, and occasionally through other people's phones. But this time he called himself, and he left a voicemail. I didn't play it that night. Ate my pasta. Washed my dish. Took the dog out. The dog sniffed the same fire hydrant he sniffs every night. Same corner, same ritual. I stood there holding the leash in the cold while he investigated it like it was new. It wasn't. Nothing was new. I went to bed. Nina was at her place. The apartment was quiet. The dog snored at the foot of the bed, and I lay there listening to him breathe for a long time, which is a thing I do now that I didn't used to do, just listening to another living thing breathe in a dark room. Nina asked about the voicemail 2 weeks later. We were on the couch, her feet in my lap, something on the TV neither of us were watching. She said, "Did you ever listen to your dad's message?" I played it on speaker. Warren's voice. Shaking. Not crying. Shaking the way old pipes shake when the pressure changes, and you can hear the system straining against itself, which is a comparison I wish I didn't make, but I fix heating systems for a living, and that's how my brain processes sound now, through ductwork and pressure gauges. Ethan, your mother needs you. Your brother needs you. I need you to be the bigger person. Call me back. Be the bigger person. That's the phrase. Gloria used it before every bailout. Before the crypto money. Before the food truck deposit. Before the clothing line. Be the bigger person, Ethan. Meaning, be the one who pays. Be the one who absorbs. Be the one who makes it possible for everyone else to keep pretending Caleb doesn't have a pattern. Warren used it now, without irony, without awareness, Reading from the same script they've both been reading from since Caleb was 9 years old and lost a cat he stopped caring about after a week. Nina was quiet for a while. I turned the phone off. She put her hand on my arm. Didn't squeeze. Didn't say anything. Just her hand on my arm. She knows when words are noise. Warren called again 2 days later. Not my phone. Nina's. Got her number from someone, probably Jess's mother. Introduced himself, said I wasn't returning calls, asked her to talk some sense into me. Nina said, Mr. Harding, I think you should talk to Ethan about why he's not answering. Warren said, this is a family matter. She said, then handle it like a family. He's not your bank. She told me about it that evening over takeout. Matter of fact, like reporting weather. Chopsticks in hand, pad thai on the coffee table, dog at our feet hoping for a noodle. The family ate itself. That's the only way to describe what happened after the arrest. Uncle Ray hired a lawyer, filed a formal demand letter for his $25,000 investment. Caleb had nothing to give. Gloria and Warren had nothing liquid. Ray's attorney sent the demand to every family member who participated in Gloria's fundraising campaign, including Gloria herself. The people who united to fund Caleb's dream were now threatening each other through lawyers over the ashes of it. Aunt Linda stopped returning Gloria's calls. 2 cousins who donated $3,000 each asked for their money back in a group text that Jess screenshotted and sent to me without comment. Caleb's plea deal, 3 years probation, $143,000 in restitution to the IRS payable over 10 years, 200 hours of community service, and a permanent felony record. He cannot vote. He cannot hold a liquor license. He cannot manage or own a business in the state. The restaurant dream isn't on pause. It's legally dead. Caleb is 28 years old with a felony, no savings, no credit, and a restitution schedule that will follow him until he's 38. Nobody in my family has called me to say I was right. Nobody has called to say they're sorry. Nobody has called at all except to ask for money. 5 months after the arrest, a letter arrived at my apartment. Handwritten. Gloria's round cursive on the envelope. The same handwriting she used on birthday cards when I was a kid. The one she'd sign, Love Always, Mom, with a little heart drawn next to the word always. I didn't open it for 3 days. It sat on the counter in the same spot where Warren's call had once vibrated against the granite. Same counter. Different kind of heavy. Thursday evening. I sat at the kitchen table and opened it. 4 pages. Front and back. Small writing. Cramped toward the margins like she ran out of room, but couldn't stop. She talked about her childhood. About sacrifice. About how mothers do what any mother would do. About how Caleb's problems weren't really his fault because the economy is hard and small businesses fail every day and the system is designed to punish people who try. She mentioned Warren's health, which was the first I'd heard about any health issue, and she dropped it in like a grenade buried in a paragraph about property taxes. She mentioned the remortgage, the car she sold. The word sorry appeared once. One time in 4 handwritten pages. In this sentence, I'm sorry you feel this way. Not I'm sorry for what I said. Not I'm sorry I chose wrong. Not I'm sorry I told the family you were jealous when you were the only one who could read a spreadsheet. I'm sorry you feel this way. Which is not an apology. It's a relocation of blame dressed up in cursive. She asked me to call. She said the door was always open. She said family is family. I read the letter with the dog asleep under my chair and the bathroom renovation visible through the open door. White tile. Straight grout. I'd done it myself, on weekends, on my knees, with a level and a patience I didn't know I had. In a bathroom that cost $4,200 and looks exactly the way I wanted it to because I planned it and I paid for it, and I did the work. I folded the letter. Put it back in the envelope. Opened the kitchen drawer, the one with the tape and the scissors and the batteries that might be dead. Put the letter inside. Closed the drawer. Frank called me into his office on a Wednesday. Frank is my boss. Chews toothpicks even during meetings. Has a framed photo of a largemouth bass he caught in 2019 on his desk, which he mentions to new employees within the first 10 minutes. Has never once asked me about my family, my mother, my brother, or anything that isn't directly related to compressors, ductwork, scheduling, or overtime. He said I was being promoted. Lead technician. Salary increase. Company truck. A crew of 4 reporting to me. He shook my hand. His palm was rough and dry the way hands get when you've worked with tools for 30 years and never once apologized for it. He looked me in the eye and said, "You earned this. Nobody gave it to you." Frank has no idea what that sentence did. He was already looking at a clipboard before I left the office. He said it the way you'd say, "Good weather today," and went back to his day. But I stood in the hallway outside his office for about 10 seconds before I could walk. The fluorescent light above me was buzzing. Same sound as the supply house the night Gloria called. Different building. Different feeling. That night I went home. The apartment was clean. The dog met me at the door with his ear flopping sideways. The bathroom tile was white. The grout was straight. There was pasta in the cabinet and Parmesan in the green can and a letter in the kitchen drawer I hadn't looked at since the day I put it there. I needed a pen. Promotion paperwork. Opened the drawer. My hand touched the envelope. Gloria's handwriting. For pages. "I'm sorry you feel this way." I picked up the pen. Left the letter. Signed the paperwork at the kitchen table while the dog put his chin on my knee. The letter is still in the drawer. The pen was right next to it. I used the pen. I left the letter. Would you have opened that letter? Or would you have left it in the drawer? Tell me. Subscribe if you want more.